What is the UK government's strategy with having a green list at all if it is so narrow? What do you think they're trying to achieve here?
Indeed, it is a very narrow green list. And at the end of the day, the government's strategy is still to restrain travel. They're not united in their belief that people should be travelling. There is still a split in the UK cabinet among ministers over just how much travel should be opened up. So I see this announcement last night as a small victory for the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps and colleagues like Gavin Williamson, the Education Secretary, who supports more opening up. But it is a very restricted change of policy last night, simply adding Malta as the only green list addition. The others are a green watch list, and that will continue to sow confusion among consumers because they're worried that the government will potentially change some of these countries at short notice back into amber, meaning you would have to quarantine when you return to the UK.
Well, Paul, in addition to the actual green list additions that came through last night and the changes to the red list, the other piece of news that came from Grant Shapps was this intention of the UK to eventually loosen rules for fully vaccinated passengers down the line sometime later this summer. If the next travel review isn't going to come for another 3-4 weeks, is that even going to make a difference, or will people have already made their travel plans? How much of the summer season can actually be salvaged under the current plan?
The difficulty here is that the government is again kicking the can down the road, as we say here. They're taking a difficult issue, just how many people should be travelling, and putting it further back. In my view, there's no reason why over 35 million people in the UK who have been fully jabbed should not be allowed to travel now and then be exempt from quarantine when they return to the UK. So I don't understand why the government is actually making this much more of a difficult problem. They're pushing it into August. Their own terms were late summer. So that means really August. It's not going to be in July. And of course, by then, many people have already decided what their holiday plans are. Many people are choosing to staycation in the UK, and that market is booming. But sadly, it also means uncertainty for airlines and others because they're just not sure when these new rules might come into play. And I think what's happening is the government is deliberately pushing back any start date for this because they're concerned that the Delta variant may get worse, that potentially European countries may see a rise in the Delta variant further to what they're seeing already. And therefore, there may be no need to encourage travel in August because it may not be possible. So still plenty of unknowns. And that's causing uncertainty, not just for tour operators, travel agents, airlines, but also for consumers as well.
It was strange seeing this push, this new communication from Grant Shapps around the potential change in rules for vaccinated passengers, given it looked like a carrot almost for people to get vaccinated. But then you look at vaccine uptake in the UK and it's world leading. They're actually not having a big issue with encouraging people to get vaccinated. So it's tricky to understand what their rationale could be other than trying to just buy themselves some time to see how the situation unfolds. I mean, is that a fair conclusion?
It is. And also, the government's own data, NHS test and trace data, is showing that there are not really any variants being brought into the UK from amber countries. This data was taken over a 4-week period in May and June, and it just shows how strong the government's push into genomic sequencing is. They spent a lot of money on this to improve the science, and the science is clearly showing there's nothing to worry about. So you wonder why the government is pushing this back. And I'm pretty certain from what I've heard based on conversations at the G7 summit recently in Cornwall, that both the UK and the US are following a similar strategy. Essentially, that is vaccinate more than 70% of your population fully, both in the UK and the US, then you can start to open things up. And if that's the case, that would be the logical reason why we've not seen the US open its borders yet to the UK, which is, of course, some concern for airlines who rely on transatlantic traffic. They're not seeing that opening, which would provide vital revenues at the moment during the busy summer season. And without those revenues and without that reopening of the UK-US corridor, then clearly they're not going to have a successful summer.